I've spent a lot of time on this channel looking at gangster movies, British ones, American ones, and somehow, embarrassingly, I've never covered Yakuza films. Today, we fix that. Sonatine came out in 1993. Takeshi Kitano wrote it, directed it, edited it, and stars as Murakawa, a Yakuza gangster who's tired of the life. He is sent to Okinawa to help settle a gang dispute, but he soon suspects the whole assignment may be a setup. After the situation turns violent, he retreats to an isolated beach with what's left of his crew. They're stuck there waiting, so they play games, kill time, and goof around by the water. These are some of the best scenes in the film, but the violence is never far away, and things eventually catch up with them. Kitano's style is slow and deadpan, minimal dialogue, long stretches where almost nothing seems to happen. It shouldn't work as a gangster film, but it does. Kinji Fukasaku's Battles Without Honor and Humanity is based on real accounts of the Hiroshima Yakuza wars after World War II. Fukasaku shoots it almost like a newsreel, handheld cameras, freeze frames, on-screen text, and a constant feeling of disorder. The whole thing feels raw and chaotic, which is exactly the point. Before this, the classic Yakuza films often leaned on honor codes, loyalty, and a certain nobility. Fukasaku throws that out. His Yakuza are violent, corrupt, and self-serving, and the codes they claim to live by are basically a fiction. The film was a major success, and Fukasaku followed it with 4 immediate sequels, all released in 1973 and 1974. If you know him from Battle Royale, this is where his reputation was built. Ryuji follows a Yakuza member who gets out of prison and tries to leave the life behind. He is respected within his gang, but he wants something quieter now, to look after his wife and young daughter, and maybe live like an ordinary man. The problem is that honest life is harder than it looks, especially when you're used to easy money and your old world is still right there waiting. Kinji Fukasaku, by the way, reportedly called Ryuji one of the only great Yakuza films made after his own 1970s classics. The film was directed by Toru Kawashima, but its soul is really writer and star Shoji Kaneko, who plays the title character. Like Fukasaku's own work, Ryuji treats Yakuza tradition and ritual as a running joke, rather than anything to take seriously. And the film's gritty, low-budget approach helped set the tone for what Kitano and Takashi Miike would do later. The Yakuza is the only American-directed film on this list, and it looks at the world and customs of the Yakuza through a clearly Western point of view. It uses more action and plot than a Japanese director might have chosen, but that also makes it an easier entry point if you have no background in Japanese film. The film was directed by Sidney Pollack from a screenplay by Robert Towne and Paul Schrader, based on a story by Leonard Schrader. Robert Mitchum plays Harry Kilmer, a private detective with a long connection to Japan. After World War II, while stationed there during the occupation, he fell in love with Aiko, but their relationship was broken apart because of her brother. Almost 30 years later, Harry returns to Japan to help a close associate whose daughter has been kidnapped by the Yakuza. Next is Branded to Kill from 1967. The film follows Goro Hanada, a Yakuza hitman with a sexual fixation on the smell of boiled rice. He is ranked as the 3rd best hitman in the Japanese underworld. But after he fails to complete a difficult contract given to him by a mysterious woman, he is pushed into a messy fight for survival that eventually leads him to a showdown with the mysterious Number One. And the story behind the film is also worth mentioning. Branded to Kill was made at Nikatsu, a Japanese studio known for crime and Yakuza films in the 1950s and 60s, often borrowing from Hollywood gangster movies and film noir. Seijun Suzuki's film was not like that. It was strange enough that the president of Nekatsu called it incomprehensible, and Suzuki was fired from the studio. After Branded to Kill, Suzuki was effectively blacklisted by the major studios and did not direct another feature for 10 years. Over time, though, the film's reputation grew, and directors like John Woo and Quentin Tarantino later cited Suzuki as an influence. Next is Ichi the Killer from 2001. Takashi Miike is one of Japan's most prolific directors. Just between 2001 and 2002, he was credited with directing 15 productions, moving between psychological thrillers, teen dramas, dark comedies, and other genres. But Ichi the Killer is still one of his most controversial films. The story begins when Kakihara's boss disappears. Kakihara will do almost anything to find out what happened to him, and as he cuts his way through the Shinjuku underworld, he helps set off a gang war. At the same time, there is a larger plot targeting the city's Yakuza, led by the violent outbursts of a mentally unstable killer known as Ichi. The film is based on a manga series, and it was heavily cut in some countries and banned outright in others because of its sexual violence and gore. Even with that, its stylized violence and fast, chaotic direction helped make it one of Miike's best-known films internationally. Another Lonely Hitman came out in 1995, directed by Rokuro Mochizuki. It follows an old-school Yakuza hitman who is released after 10 years in prison and finds that the world he knew has changed. The old code of conduct is basically gone, and his gang is now pushing drugs. He is a reformed addict himself, so this change hits him personally. He also starts to feel sympathy for a local call girl, and when he defends her from a pimp connected to another gang, he ends up in trouble with both his own gang and their rivals. It still feels rooted in older Yakuza films, but there is also something more modern in the way it handles crime, violence, and loyalty. Reservoir Dogs may come to mind, but the film never feels like an imitation. Drunken Angel from 1948 is often described as Akira Kurosawa's breakthrough film. It is also considered one of the first films to show the post-war Yakuza in the form that would become familiar later. Instead of the older pre-war image of gamblers and outlaws, Kurosawa shows a young criminal trying to survive in occupied Japan. The film also works in social criticism, as much as the occupation censors would allow at the time. It is not a typical Yakuza film in the way later examples would be, but Kurosawa's approach, along with Toshiro Mifune's performance, helped point the genre in a new direction. Mifune plays Matsunaga, a low-level Yakuza who is treated by an alcoholic doctor after a fight with a rival gang. The doctor discovers that Matsunaga has tuberculosis, and the two form an unlikely connection. But when a senior figure from Matsunaga's gang is released from prison, Matsunaga starts slipping back into his old habits, and his place in the gang becomes less secure than he thought. This was the first of 16 collaborations between Mifune and Kurosawa, which would later include Rashomon and Seven Samurai. While Kurosawa's Drunken Angel is often considered the first true Yakuza film, the genre did not get its first major box office hit until Teruo Ishii's Abashiri Prison in 1965. The film made Ishii and its star Ken Takakura much bigger names, and its success led to a long-running series that eventually included 17 sequels. Abashiri Prison is set around a notorious jail in Hokkaido. The main character is a model prisoner who is trying to keep to himself while he waits out his final 6 months. But when he is handcuffed to a rough Yakuza member, he is forced to escape after the other man breaks out. The two have to form an uneasy partnership as they try to evade the law across snowy Hokkaido. Another Kinji Fukasaku film on this list says a lot about how important he was to the Yakuza genre. And even before Battles Without Honor and Humanity, you can already see him moving toward that rougher 1970s style. The story also starts with a man getting out of prison, but the direction is different this time. He is not trying to leave the life behind. He comes back and finds that his old world has changed, the underworld has new rules, and the area is now controlled by rival Yakuza groups. With his aggression and hatred of authority, he gathers a crew and tries to force his way back into power. Bunta Sugawara plays the lead, and he also gave Fukasaku suggestions for the script, because he had friends in the Yakuza world.